Most of the time, Sonic fan games are a small thing. Sure, many of them gain popularity among YouTubers and the Sonic fanbase, but none of them really cross over into the mainstream and get a Steam release. It's easy to see why. Most of them feel like the same stuff you've played many, many times, while oftentimes feeling like a bad piece of fan art or fan fiction straight out of DeviantArt, but once in a blue moon they cross into the mainstream and get sold on Steam. Today, this is my review for Freedom Planet, the Sonic fan game. Inspired by 90s platformers, yet again indie game that just hit Steam and is quickly becoming popular. Or should I say popular in terms of relativity to a Sonic fan game. Now first, let me give you the backstory of this game. At first, the characters featured in this game were Sonic fan characters on DeviantArt by a random person, which had gained some popularity on DeviantArt, and apparently the characters were popular enough to have their own fan club on DeviantArt. And of course, let's be honest here, when the characters are called half original characters and Sonic fan characters, that says something right off the bat about this game. Later on, a fan game with these characters started off in development. This game would be called Freedom Planet. Now, the demos for this game actually ended up gaining popularity in the Sonic fanbase, to the point where it even got featured on a fan game Quote Expo online event. And images on the old website, now removed, show how the characters originally looked. Now, despite the developers and fans trying to say the game is not a Sonic fan game and distance itself from the game's roots, it obviously has its roots there, as most indie games don't get shown at Sonic Fangame quote expos, nor do they put on the Steam store page the copyrights for the fan characters. The roots get even deeper when you realize this game is actually powered by a Sonic Fangame engine, Sonic Worlds, which has been used in various fan games made with Multimedia Fusion 2 and its successor, Click Team Fusion 2.5. This can be seen in the gameplay with the level design and the fact that the game does rely on momentum like Sonic does. Not only is the engine not the best optimized engine, but also the engine is restricted with regards to features. So co-op isn't possible yet, and neither are various console ports. And a Mac demo on the Freedom Planet website is actually an exe wrapped up in a DMG file with Wine, a program for running Windows programs on Unix, Linux, or variants of it such as Mac OS X. So despite fans asking for console ports, this won't happen anytime soon until ClickTeam develops an exporter for them or for the console they want. However, Sega said it was 100% legal to sell this fan game. So the game was put on Steam Greenlight, had a successful Kickstarter, and despite much mockery from Steam community, the game was greenlit because nowadays nearly anything can get greenlit. And after many delays and a 2-day delay because Steam doesn't release games on weekends, it's finally out on Steam, and now I'm here reviewing this game for you. Now, before I start this review, let me clarify a few things. Yes, I am indeed a furry, but this does not mean I will gravitate toward anything with anthropomorphic characters. While I am aware many furs in the fandom are like this, I am not one of those furs. Anyways, on to the video and the review. Freedom Planet is yet another platformer in a long line of platformers supposed to feel like 90s platformers on the PC. Powered by the Sonic Worlds engine, the game features many mechanics ripped from Sonic. For example, if you hold up on the D-pad or press up on the keyboard, you will look up above you just like in Sonic. There are also 90-degree curves just like Sonic, handlebars to hold on just like one of the Sonic games. And in fact, this game feels like a Sonic fan game. It really does. Even though the developers and fans have tried to say this is not a Sonic fan game, You can really tell from the level design to the fact that the game shares many of the same characteristic level items that Sonic does. For example, the bumper springs and, of course, loop-de-loops. Yes, there are some. I mean, look, see those bumper springs? Those are straight out of Sonic. But the character design is straight out of Sonic too. First off, let's look at the main characters. They're obviously Sonic OCs. I mean, let's be honest, have you seen those Sonic fan characters on DeviantArt, which have the Sonic character template? That's what these characters look like. You've got a dragon, a wildcat, and some other character. I'm going to have to guess a rabbit because they look a lot like Cream the Rabbit. But all three of them have the same Sonic design template. I mean, with the big head, the big eyes, and the smaller body with the big feet and hands. Yeah, that's the Sonic character design template. And they clearly have that design template. Oh, and one more thing, not only that, but they have to look nothing like the animal they're based off of other than a hair design. I mean, that's what 90% of Sonic characters look like, and that's what this looks like too. The enemy design is pretty generic as well. Oh, look, and see death spikes. The enemy designs feel like I've seen this before somewhere. And I mentioned a lot of them are robots, which really, and when you kill them, you see the little thing fly away. Kind of like how Sonic had the animals flying away. I mean, let's be honest, there are similarities too strong to not notice to Sonic. And especially when you realize this game started out as a fan game, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you've got, what, these characters which look like Sonic fan characters. You've got a lot of robot enemies which kind of look generic and stuff. But let's talk about one more thing, the art direction or graphics. Now, it seems like they were trying to deliberately go for the old school look here. The only problem is, it seems like there are a lot of colors missing. I mean, that's what the art style looks like. They were trying to go for that a lot of colors missing art style, when in reality, back in the past, what they tried to do was max out the older hardware. I mean, go look at actual old school games like on the Sega Genesis, and you'll realize that the whole color scheme of the game was designed for the low color palette of the Genesis. Or look at older PC games which were designed with the resolution in mind and stuff. And then you have this game which tries to go for the old school look, but doesn't realize why the old school games look the way they do, and that they actually had a better art style than this game does. Because this game feels like a lot of colors are missing, and I noticed this on sprites when you look up close, like you're playing on the default 3x settings, you'll see that a lot of sprites just have flat colors many places. But now it's time to talk about the gameplay itself. First off, the game isn't very well optimized. So when I was recording, whenever something would happen, like let's just say somebody logging in on Steam or something, I would actually see a frame rate decrease because of this. And this wasn't really a good thing, especially because, for example, I'm playing this on a hex core AMD. I'm not playing this on an Intel Celeron. I'm playing this on a hex core AMD. Like, this is a pretty nice processor. Not the highest end anymore, but at one time, especially I think maybe a year or two ago, maybe a little bit longer, this was actually a pretty good processor. Of course, now AMD has the 8-core CPUs and the like, but like I said, this should be able to run a 2D game fine. I mean, I can run Battlefield 4 on this, and so I should be able, I mean, not maxed out, obviously, because my GPU is kind of old. It's a GTX 260, but it should be able to run a 2D game pretty good, and it's got frame rate issues. But of course, since frame rate affects gameplay, let's get to the gameplay, shall we? The controls are clunky. It's obvious that this game was designed for you to run out to your local GameStop or Walmart and purchase a $25 X input controller like a 360 controller. And it was designed for you to purchase that and play it with it. Because let's be honest here, it really isn't that. Like, the controls for the keyboard, they are just terrible. I know. Who'd play a platformer with a keyboard? Well, it does have the controls mapped to like the usual emulator style layout with the ZXC and the arrow keys controlling it. So if you're a Let's Player who's used to using your favorite Nintendo or Genesis emulator of choice, this is for you. But anyways, let me get back to the gameplay. Like I said, the controls feel clunky, like I said. I mean, I don't know, sometimes my character would just look up. This especially happened when I was playing as Carol the Wildcat. Or other things would happen, such as, well, I just try to push buttons and they wouldn't really respond right. It's hard to explain, but these controls are trash. Like, there's no getting around it. These are some of the worst controls I've seen in a platformer ever. And honestly, I think they really should have spent a lot of time tweaking the controls because at this point, they're just clunky. I mean, I honestly don't understand why they're so clunky, but it really doesn't make sense either. And also the platforming, too. The platforming feels pretty damn clunky, too. I mean, especially with the physics engine, which feels like it came straight out of Sonic 4. I mean, I'm not even joking about this. Like, the physics engine, it just feels all wonky. Like, you'll just move around and it'll just feel weird. I mean, it's hard to actually describe it without playing it because it just feels like a nightmare to play. I mean, really, it does. Levels are extremely long. And I mean, they are really long, like 10 minutes and stuff. So, I mean, you know how Sonic is, where you've got like Act 1, 2, and 3? Well, this game, it pretty much combines all three acts into a level. So, you'll be running through, and sometimes you'll have to backtrack a little, but despite this, it still manages to retain its Sonic-y feel. I mean, really, it does. I honestly don't know why they did that, but honestly, if they're trying to distance themselves from Sonic, they should have done a lot more because this really does feel like a fan game. It really does. You can select from several characters, some of which you have to unlock later on, but when you're playing as Carol and Liliac, because these are the only two ones I could even play as long as, because this game is a pain to play. But let me just tell you, the characters control about the same, and let me tell you, you have Liliac, who's basically obviously Sonic, and you've got the other character, Carol the Wildcat, who's obviously plays a little bit slower paced until you get the motorcycle, in which case your motorcycle is like the Titans in Titanfall, as in it controls the exact same, to the point where you really have to wonder. I mean, there isn't even any limitation like when you're on the motorcycle like there is on Yoshi and Mario, and you're on it forever until you get hit so many times, I think. And speaking of which, that's the one thing that's different about this game than Sonic, is the health system. Unlike Sonic, and the fact that your characters have abilities, of course, you have this leaf system where you have to pick up the red leaves to heal your health, and if you get hit so many times, you're dead, which can make boss battles especially frustrating, especially when you've got cheap boss battles, because after all, this game was designed for the audience that can't tell badly designed game with hard game. I mean, let's be honest here. If you really wanted a hard game, you could go play like a cave shmup or something like that. I mean, there are so many harder games that aren't trying to be cheap. But anyways, like I said, both characters, especially when you get the motorbike, they control really about the same, really. Except the motorbike can go up walls, kind of like a SBO, but like faster from Chaotix. And let me be honest, there actually was a Sonic game where, like a 2D Sonic, where the characters had differences. In fact, there have been several, but anyways, long story short, the characters pretty much feel the same, and they still have the same physics issues. In fact, I think with Carol the Wildcat, I had even more issues controlling that character. Oh, did I mention all the characters are female in this game? Gotta love fan service. So, all in all, my thoughts on the gameplay are this. No matter which character you pick, you'll still suffer from the same bad controls, the same wonky physics, and it's just not fun to play. I mean, let's be honest here. If I wanted a fun platformer, there are better games I could get with better gameplay, like, let's just say, an older Sonic, or Klonoa, or there are so many older platformers that are better than this game. And even though this game tries hard to be an old school platformer, it does not have the fun of an older platformer. It's not fun at all. It's just boring. So honestly, this game just isn't that good gameplay-wise. But now let's talk about the final department that I haven't touched on yet, the sound. Now, I actually had to re-record this footage because, long story short, this game did not like DX Tory, so I had to use Fraps to record this very footage with the sound intact. I don't know why, considering how DX Tory or whatever, however you pronounce that program. No, I mean, that works better with many games, especially considering how, it actually gives me a decent frame rate when I record with it, unlike certain programs. So about the music. The background music is forgettable. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of it you're not going to be remembering in the future. I mean, I've heard some games with pretty memorable soundtracks, and this is not one of them. While the soundtrack might do the job, it's just bland and forgettable. I mean, it's nothing special. But here's where it really gets bad. The voice acting is the worst part. Now, I know, I could direct a bunch of insults at this game. I could say it's got the worst voice acting I've seen in a game since the 90s. But instead, I'm just going to let all the jokes write themselves by showing you, unedited, the voice acting of this game, complete with the music playing in the background, so you can see how good the audio mixing is too. Because let's be honest, this is how it actually is in the game.
Our walls are impenetrable!
Your floor isn't.
Well then, if death is what you seek, then I will gladly provide it!
There's no reason to be hostile, Your Majesty. In fact, you should be proud. Your son is moments away from inheriting the throne.
Gale!
I tried, Father!
What do you want with us?
How shall I explain this? I'm gifting your son with my knowledge. It will make him the most powerful ruler your world has ever known. And he will answer to no one but me.
No! Murderer!
Prepare the Snatcher.
How many chasers are left? Tell me!
You didn't say please.
Don't play games with me, duckling! Tell me!
Fine, be that way.
Shah! Where's that blasted snake mount? I guess we'll have to do this the hard way! I can do this all day! What is this hideous creature?
Stay back!
Oh no! The Duckman comes with me!
I'm not gonna let you eat him!
What? What the? Too easy.
Whoa, that was a close one. Thank you, Miss,
Lilac.
Miss Lilac.
Are you okay? I saw a huge explosion back there.
You've been following me this whole time, haven't you?
Duh.
I take it you know this guy.
Girl.
This girl?
She's like my tail, always right behind me.
Carol the Wildcat, at your service. And this is Lilac.
Well, I'm Torque. I'm a shell duck.
Shell duck?
It's more of a nickname. I'm not exactly from around here.
So what are you doing out here? The skies haven't been safe for days.
Someone is about to steal the Kingdom Stone, and I have to stop them.
The Kingdom Stone. That's impossible.
Yeah, only I could steal it.
You wish.
Well, it's already happening. Marizawa's sending troops in disguise to the ancient temple. I have to warn them.
Carol and I are pretty fast. We could run over there for you.
Seriously?
Yup, I've got a motorcycle and she's a dragon. They're like super fast.
Darn straight.
Well, it's worth a shot. Hurry over there before it's too late.
What about you?
I'll catch up with you as soon as I find all my stuff.
Right. Come on, Carol. General Gong!
You two again?
It's nice to see you too.
We have to talk to you. The Kingdom Stone is in danger.
Don't be ridiculous. Nothing gets past my nose.
Will you just listen for a minute?
What is the meaning of this?
We mean no disrespect. We're just
You
trying
heard
to...
what the General said. There's nothing to worry about.
But
Don't make me repeat myself.
well, they sound like they know what they're doing. Why don't we just charge up and go home, huh? What do you say?
I don't know. I feel like they're hiding something from us.
It's an ambush!
Follow me!
And the final cherry on top isn't the voice acting, which is hilariously bad. I mean, let's be honest, you're probably thinking of The Room when you hear that voice acting. But here's the cherry on top. This game costs $15. Now keep in mind, the worst part is that this game feels like a fan game and costs $15. At $15, this game has very limited appeal. I mean, the only people who are going to be buying this game are a very select minority. Sonic fans, Let's Players, and of course, furries who are literally into everything anthropomorphic, to the point where they'll buy this game even though this game isn't really of high quality. Because it's not. This game is pretty bad. And honestly, this game just isn't worth $15. It's more like free worth. This is the kind of stuff you download for free on one of those websites like ModDB, play for a night or two, and then forget you ever downloaded it, because that's what this game is pretty much. And honestly, this game is probably going to be forgotten about quick, especially because the small minority can't give this game a big popularity boost on Steam. Because not many people are playing this game or owning this game, especially because this game had a very low profile release. All in all, I wouldn't buy this game. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and please, don't buy this game. Especially since if you're on a lower end computer, it might give you issues because a lot of this game's target audience probably doesn't have an X-Core AMD, and considering how I'm having stuttering issues on my Hex Core AMD, that's not a good sign.